As China flexes its growing military might in the South China Sea, President Obama meets with Australian PM Julia Gillard this week to sign an agreement that will see the US increase its military presence in the region. This is Behind the Headlines on Global Research TV. President Obama flew from this weekend's APEC summit in Honolulu to Canberra, the Australian capital, to meet with Prime Minister Gillard on a range of bilateral issues. He is expected to give a speech on a deepening of the alliance between the two countries on Thursday, even as details begin to emerge about growing US-Australian military cooperation.
Our U.S. Marines will begin rotating through Darwin for joint training and exercises. Our Air Force will rotate additional aircraft through more airfields in northern Australia. And these rotations, which are going to be taking place on Australian bases, will bring our militaries even closer and make them even more effective.
Diplomatic sources indicate that the plan for an increased American military presence in the region, including a Marine task force of 2,500 troops, more ships and nuclear-powered submarines, and a greater number of joint military exercises, have been conveyed to the other Asia-Pacific powers, including China. The move comes as Secretary of State Clinton gave her own address to the APEC conference last weekend, stressing that the Asia-Pacific region is becoming the world's new center of gravity.
It is becoming increasingly clear that in the 21st century, the world's strategic and economic center of gravity will be the Asia-Pacific, from the Indian subcontinent to the western shores of the Americas.
Her remarks were interspersed with tough words for China regarding the valuation of its own currency. The increasing US military involvement in the region, combined with the tough talk on China's economy, served to highlight the growing turbulence in the region exemplified by China's own increasing military presence in the South China Sea.
On Sunday, speaking at a regional defense forum in Singapore, China's Defense Minister Liang Guanglia claimed the recent flare-ups with Vietnam and the Philippines were now under control.
There has always been freedom to navigate in the South China Sea. No one owns it. The overall situation in the area is stable.
Pentagon officials are now warning of the early stages of a new Cold War-style era in US-China relations, with one military official telling the Washington Times that the Pentagon's new plan, known as the Air-Sea Battle Concept, is to China what the maritime strategy was to the Soviet Union. The plan calls for increased preparations by the Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps to counteract China's increasingly sophisticated arsenal, including its long-range missiles, stealth aircraft, anti-satellite weapons, and cyber weapons. At the same time, China is increasing its own military presence in areas like the troubled Kashmir region, where China has established a military presence over the past 6 years under the guise of reconstruction projects after the 2005 earthquake that devastated the area. There are currently 14 projects in the area that are being coordinated by the Pakistani army and funded by over $6 billion in Chinese investments. Last week, Pakistan raised the specter of even further military integration with Beijing as Prime Minister Gilani met with the Chinese Premier and the Russian Prime Minister at the annual meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a NATO counterbalance to which Pakistan is seeking membership. Now, even as the ASEAN countries seek to come into even closer economic integration via agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, military analysts are fretting over the possibility of a new front for the deployment of US forces and a new Cold War to justify the largely unreported arms race taking place between Washington and Beijing. For more on this story and other breaking news and current events, please go to globalresearch.ca. For more research and analysis by James Corbett, please go to corbettreport.com.